This one is about mindset. Here is the situation. I have just gotten a new racing sim, and convinced a couple of my friends to play it with me. I have gotten pretty good at sim racing, just by spending lots of time learning to drive faster and better. One of my friends is a real-life race car driver, with an 800 HP horsepower race car, and other has had far less time in sim racing, but seems to be faster than me just on his instincts alone. Now, I don't like being the slowest, and when we did a race, I was the fastest, but the race car driver was using a really bad control system, which no doubt slowed him down a lot. And the other friend is just inconsistent. I'm in the middle of college and don't or shouldn't have the time to practice. So here's the problem. I want them both to join me in the simulator so that I can race against people who are similar skilled to me. We're all pretty similar right now, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to fall really far behind in the next few weeks. So I've been tempted to give advice that is goodish, but not the best. Even though I know so many things that could help them drive faster, I could help them get so fast that I would have no chance of keeping up. I guess it's kind of like Ryosuke from Initial D in the later stages of the show. Which is cool, but frustrating. I want us all to get better, so I should just give them the best advice I can and just try to keep up. I've been doing this, but the temptation to hold their skill level down so that I can keep up is there. How do I get rid of the temptation? The race car driver probably knows way more than me, but this is mostly about the guy who has way less experience than me, but has great natural instincts. And I know that this can apply to basically anything. It can apply to playing guitar or playing a video game, or really games or sports.
Well, thank you, Saule. This is a great topic, and I totally understand where you're coming from. Um, I know that there have been times when I'm tempted to share, and then I'm scared because I'm afraid they're going to beat me at my own game that I taught them how to do. But it's funny because once you do that a few times and somebody gets better than you find that it's actually a really rewarding experience to know that you helped someone get better than you. And even though they beat you, which can be embarrassing, you know, it still feels good because you know you helped someone succeed. So, anyway, I'm going to get out of Kyle's way. Let him have the reins. So Kyle, have at it.
Sure. There's a couple things that kind of stuck out to me in here, but just think it back to when my brother and I, Ryan and I, we used to play video games together all the time. And, being the older brother, it was unacceptable that I should ever lose anything ever. And there were definitely quite a few times where I took that too far. But, and here's the deal. That was never fun when I took things too far. It was always a mistake. And it was way more fun when we were both just having fun just playing the game together, right? Like, I mean,
Ryan's communicating with you.
Ryan's gonna try and cover for me here. I'm just gonna come out and say it. There's been times where I was just so frustrated, I just hit him with stuff. Take the controller or something, and there he goes. You can't beat me now. And it's and maybe, yeah, that's right. That's why he's evil scheming today. He's got to find some way to. This was his plan. He knew we were doing this question. They have to come out with all this. No, but that wasn't fun. That was just a big mess, right? I mean, neither of us walked away feeling good about the situation. It was just a fight. It wasn't good. We weren't thinking. I don't know what he was thinking, but I know I wasn't thinking about his well-being. I was just thinking about winning. But as I've gotten older, and especially since I have kids and I get to watch them, I have way more fun now watching other people have fun and knowing that they're having a good time, because it's not just this brief dopamine, like adrenaline rush thing. Like, okay, this is fun, this is cool. That happens. You could, do that in a lot of ways. Jump off of something big. It might not be healthy, but you're gonna feel an adrenaline rush on the way down. There's a lot of ways to accomplish that don't involve hurting other people, and when I play more cooperative games, it's just more fun. It's like helping him or helping anybody. Like especially my kids. Half the time it's we play Smash Brothers or something, and yeah, I could practice for about 10 minutes longer and be way better, but I'd rather just goof around, because I don't care. The win isn't what's important. It's having fun with the people around me. And I think that's sort of the same thing. Why do you want to race with them, right? I would imagine because it's fun. And if you have this sort of feeling in the back of your mind that you've brought them down or maybe misled them, that takes all the fun out of it, even if you win. Because now you have to double down on the lie every time you win, having given false information. And that's never going to feel good. Every time. Every race that you win, having given false information will feel, in a way, bad. It'll feel good when you're in first place, but as soon as you cross the finish line, that's the trade-off. And so, how do you not accidentally, because the temptation's there though, right? Like, I mean, everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to be a loser. But the real win isn't winning in the next 5 minutes. The real win is your whole life. You don't want to win. I mean, it's okay to win now. That's cool, whatever. But what you really want to win is the game of life itself. And that comes from good relationships with those around you. And it doesn't, in destroying those relationships or holding back in those relationships is that's a whole other game that we fail to play if we don't open up and be helpful. So yeah. What was the other thing? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. What was the other thing?
There was another thing that stuck out to me. I am trying to remember. I can't remember what it was. So I'm gonna have to. I'm sure I'll remember as we move forward. But yeah, that's what I got for now.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kyle. And Saule, thank you for the topic too. There are a couple things that I can think of in this case. As you're tempted to keep someone's skill level down, really the question is why. I mean, I always have to ask myself, why am I wanting to do something? Is it because I'm going to benefit in some way? Is it just because of my pride? Is it because I'm just unwilling to lose? There are a lot of reasons why we might decide to do something. And one of the things, it's fun to be the expert. It's fun to be the person that knows and that can teach and train, and that's wonderful. But it's also fun to learn. And it's even fun to learn from someone that you've taught. I remember when I was a band instrument repairman and I was learning that trade. I was the total noob, right? I didn't know anything, and so I was learning from everybody around me. And it was really interesting. There were probably about a dozen other technicians in this shop. It was a pretty big shop. We worked on a lot of instruments for a lot of school band programs at the time, and so they had quite a few people in this shop, and I was learning from the manager. He was quote unquote my trainer, but I learned little bits from every person in that shop. And what I learned more than anything was that, at least in that field, there are a lot of different ways to get the same results. There are a lot of different approaches you can take to a certain thing and still get good results. And so sometimes you have to take, what works best for you and use that in order to do the best that you can do. But one of the other things I noticed in this shop was that pride was a huge issue with these technicians. And everybody would always tell you, like, you would show what you were doing, the way I learned it from one person, and you'd show it to another person, and they'd be like, oh, no, you don't want to do it that way. You want to do it the way I do it, right? And so everybody was willing to give me lots and lots of information as long as I was willing to listen. But if I came to them to try and explain something that I had learned that might help them, they were really kind of closed off to that idea. They didn't want to hear about it. They were like, well, I know what I'm doing. This is the way I've been doing it forever, and blah, 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 right? We get set in our ways. But here's the thing to remember. You said you're racing against people that are similar skill to me, and I remember somewhere in the topic, you had mentioned that some of these guys just have some really good natural instincts. And that's awesome. But here's one of the things you can do. If you're willing to share information that can help them, and then they get to the point where they're really competitive with you and maybe beating you or whatever, this is a great opportunity for you to then ask them, hey, have you watched what I'm doing? Is there anything that you can think of that I might be able to do better? And then it takes you from the position of trainer to now you're a student again. And that can be a really fun time. And a couple things happen. One, you'll learn some good stuff. Maybe you'll learn some good stuff. But you're going to help them feel good about themselves, because they're going to feel good about helping you succeed. They're going to feel good about being the expert in that case. And maybe they can just give you a little bit of perspective that might just put you over the edge and gain a new level that you never had before. And it can be a really cool thing. I know that, Ryan and I have done that in music. When I first met Ryan, he was pretty young. And he always had, from the time I met him, tremendous, tremendous talent in music and tremendous ability. So he had taken his talent and he had refined it into skill. And what I could do when we first started working together, I knew more about audio production at that time. So I was able to help him in that regard, and we were able to work together and learn some stuff. But the interesting thing was, it didn't take him long before he started doing a lot of these things on his own and learning new tricks that then he could teach me. And so the challenge was, for me, I had to get my mind wrapped around, okay, I'm no longer necessarily the expert all the time. I now no longer have a student in this area, but I have a colleague in this area. And we can trade back and forth ideas. We can trade back and forth techniques, different things we've tried, and some things that have worked and some things that haven't worked. We can share stories. There's all kinds of great things. And your relationship with that person takes on a whole new level. And it can be really, really fun. So I'll tell you, while I know it can be hard to let go of that position as, hey, I know more than I can, and I want to hold on to that. You really will hit a new level once you can open that up and say, you know what? I bet they got some things to teach. I'm not the only one who knows some stuff in this game. Like, I bet I could learn some stuff from them too. And it can get really, really fun that way. And your friendship will grow in ways you never thought possible. It's a lot of fun. So, um, I've talked for a while. I think I'm wondering if Princess, did you say you had something to say on this topic?
Yes, but only if Kyle hasn't remembered his thing.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Joe covered it.
I have a little bit of input being the younger sibling of two of us. And my sister being very good at video games. And me just having a high amount of luck and a relative amount of good natural instincts, I suppose, if I give myself that. But, we'd often like to play together, If there was co-op or not co-op, playing games was often very fun. However, my sister won a lot, so there was times where I would get upset and, be like, you win all the time, I'd like have to make her let me win, which, wasn't super fun for either of us in that moment, but it was a matter of getting that over so that I'd be like fine with just however the results laid. But, it was also a thing of, learning what your goals are and learning what your goals can be. At least that's what's helped me a lot get over my being a sore loser at times. Because there were times where my sister is like in awe of like me being like, no, you're really good, and I'm like, no, I'm just lucky. I'm like, you're really good, and she's like, yeah, I just experienced, But finding different goals other than winning is the biggest thing that's helped me. Now, you got to be careful with your goals because you want to make sure it's not at the expense of somebody else. And that even goes with winning. You don't want to win at the expense of everyone else playing, I've had one night where we were playing a game called Mexican Train, where it's a bunch of domino tiles and you're meant to make a train of a sequence until you've used up all the tiles in your hand, right? Well, there were some nights where I've won 6 times in a row, and I was trying to not win while still playing within the rules of the game. I didn't succeed. But I had changed my goals to make it more fun because I was like, it's not fun to win all the time. It's nice to win. Look, I won. I won the game. But when it's kind of like nobody else is winning or, nobody else is having as much fun with it, then they stop playing, So sometimes what you can also make your goals is trying to set challenges. For instance, trying to get second place instead of first place. Even though you can get first place, you fight with somebody, seeing if you can get second place. Or, trying to add other limitations of like in Uno. I tried to make somebody else win in Uno. Now, that wasn't the greatest goal in the world because the person I chose won because of me, and then other people were like upset that I wasn't playing to win myself. So you gotta be careful because, again, other people have their own goals, and you don't want to make the game unfun because you're rigging it. But you don't have to have your sole goal being you have to win. You don't, and you can still have fun doing your best. If it's a Mario Kart type like game, you can try and see, well, can I do this without ever grabbing an item? Or can I do it even though it like the turn before I do something I have to do a weird wacky spin? Or, you can come up with all sorts of other things that could be your goal other than winning. You could even do it where it's a time. Even regardless of the other players, you try to get like 2 minutes on the dot or whatever. Not a second more, not a second less. There's other ways you can go around with not having your sole goal being that you have to win. And I saw that you said, when my family plays board games, I now always request that we play co-op games. I always feel like I'm losing while playing competitive games. Racing, it's easy to tell. You're first or you're not. But in board games, I'm always going as hard as possible and often win by a mile when I feel like I'm losing by a lot. And again, part of what I would do is step back while you're playing a game. If you notice that you're feeling nervous about losing by a lot, step back and actually look at the board. or if you're with someone you trust, like my sister, I would often, I had some of the same experiences. I would be like, oh man, I'm losing by so much. And my sister would be like, no, look, here's your path towards victory. You could easily still win this. You realize that, right? I was like, I didn't realize that up front. But it was learning that, just because you are focused on winning doesn't mean that you have to stay focused on that, or that that has to be the sole reason to play a competitive game. So I think that's really the best that I've got here. So I'm going to turn it back over to Joe and Bro.
Awesome.
Joe and
Sorry,
Bro.
that rhymed. I hope that's okay.
Fantastic.
That was beautiful. No, thank you, Princess. That's a really good point. What if winning didn't have to be your goal? We get so caught up in the victory that,
Mhm.
and I especially like the trying to help another person win, but then everybody else gets upset with you because you're helping them win and not anybody else. That's awesome. Kyle, did you have anything more to talk about on this topic?
Yeah, I just, it's interesting. Princess talking about her being a younger sibling. It's like Ryan, he never fought back when I would get mad at him. He'd just keep doing the annoying thing, which was winning. Um, but no, in all seriousness, a good example of this sort of helping each other out in video games whilst trying to win is if you look at a lot of speedrunning communities, where the whole goal is to beat a game as fast as possible. And the interesting thing is they're competing against each other. Everybody wants to have that top time slot, or they want to be the first person to do the best possible thing. However, they're all friends and they all share everything with each other. Every time someone comes up with a new, quicker strategy, they tell everybody immediately because they're all running towards the same goal. They all want to be the one to hit that goal, but they all share because they know that they've learned everything they have from the other people who did it first. No one person came up with every strategy for everything. So, when in my daily life, everything I do has been learned basically from somebody else. I look something up online and, oh, look, somebody's done it before. Let's do it that way. It works really well for them. And just acknowledging that and sort of paying it forward. And a lot of the things we learn in video games, we learn it from somebody else or just from their experience or watching somebody. And it's just sort of like, yeah, we can help them out too. It's not a big deal. And if the goal is, like you were talking earlier about maybe having a slightly different goal than winning, maybe the goal is just to have a really high performance game and the just rush that comes from that and this neck and neck type of experiences. And you're not going to have those if you dominate. So helping them get to that next level, they can push you farther and you both get better. I think that's a fantastic situation. And here's the thing too, one of the fears in if I remember in the question was that they would get too far ahead of you because you don't have enough time to practice to keep up with their skill level. I think that what you'll find is if they're that much better than you, the next time you race them, you will learn a lot faster because you'll have a lot more. That gap is going to be bigger, so you should be able to close it in half the time it would have taken you to create that gap in the first place. That makes sense. So, because, if you're going to teach him, they'll come teach you, and then all of a sudden you're learning together, and you're both trying to, do this amazing, in this example, great, fantastic race times. Beat track records, not just between you guys, but maybe you start doing as good as some of the top people out there because you've got a really healthy competition. So it's yeah, but check out if you're interested in. I don't know if you have seen too much of the speedrunning community or not, but definitely check it out. Those guys are for the most part pretty awesome at dealing with getting it first and being excited, and then also helping other people get there. So Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what you were talking about in the speed running community, uh, that reminds me a lot about the community aspect to how we seem to live a lot of areas of our life nowadays. There, a lot of Twitch streamers have formed communities. I know that on I watched some exercise Twitch streams, and what I've found is a lot of those guys are in each other's streams. They're in the chat with each other, and they're just, they're watching each other and encouraging each other and supporting each other, and that's really really cool. And learning from each other. And it definitely gets interesting because in competition, we always want to win. And I'm thinking in terms of, like in terms of like real life racing, where you have a race car driver, his management team, the owners and everybody there would be really upset if he shared secrets from their team with another team, because that might give them an edge, or that might take away their edge that they had. But it seems more and more in what I'm seeing in society, especially in online communities, there's a lot more camaraderie, and there's a lot more sharing of information. There's a lot more cheering each other on. And that's one thing. If you can learn to find joy in cheering someone else on, that can be so cool and so fun. I remember when I was a senior in high school and I was a captain on the swim team, this really became apparent to me, because now I was in a position where I was, kind of in a leadership role on this team. And so one of my jobs was to encourage and cheer and really help, these kids, and some of them were better than me. In fact, a lot of them were. I don't Come to think of it, I don't know why I was a captain. Might have just been because I was one of the seniors. There were only 3 seniors on the team. And so so I got to be a captain kind of by default, right? But I was definitely not the fastest swimmer. I was probably the slowest swimmer of all 3 of the seniors. But one of the things that I learned to do that year was cheer on the freshmen, the sophomores, the juniors, everybody. Even my fellow seniors. It was like, if I can do that, that's great. And here's another thing. If you can also remember to work hard and show that example to these to your colleagues, to the other people that you're racing with, that can also be inspiring, and you'll feel good about yourself as well. If you put in everything you have, you can't help but feel good about it. It's awesome. Um, it also became apparent to me when I was doing Taekwondo. When you're competing, now here's the thing. You're learning how to fight somebody. And you might get hurt. And your goal is to hurt them before they hurt you. Right? But when we're training, I found there was so much camaraderie there, because we would, like, for instance, I would fight this other parent, this other dad there, and he was like way taller than me and had way longer arms and legs, and so he could just punch me, and I wouldn't even be close enough to even, get my leg near him, right? And so, but we would encourage each other. Be like, "Oh man, that was a good one. You really really got me." And we'd be limping around and stuff. But you find that the higher people go, a lot of times the more welcoming they are to new competition, and encouraging, and we can all learn from each other. It's really awesome. So anyway, Saule, I mean, I don't know if I have a whole lot more to talk about. Um, it's fun to be competitive, and it's fun to win. And sometimes it's not very fun to lose. And Kyle, you've got kids. I can think of one of your children specifically that might have trouble losing.
Oh yeah.
More than the others, maybe.
Yep. Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Quite a bit, huh? But I imagine as that child grows, there will be a lot more, leadership becomes a lot of times when someone has that motivation to win, they have a lot of leadership potential. But to really truly lead is to bring others with you. Not to just be dominant. It's fun to totally dominate in a competition, for sure. But also, when you can rally a group and dominate together, celebrate each other's successes, that is way awesome. So I'd encourage you, Saule. Don't hold back. Teach them some stuff. Help them learn. And then celebrate their wins, even if they beat you. You can even let them win for a little while, just to kind of get your feet wet in losing. I've done that before, where I've let people win. And I'm a little bit more relaxed about losing because I let them win, right? But then also, it helps you become accustomed to seeing someone else win and then encouraging them in their win. Saule says, it's most fun when the race is close, whether I win or not. I can control how close it is by limiting myself if I'm way better. But it's most fun when everyone is pushing as hard as possible. Absolutely. Absolutely. Makes for a good match or a good race or a good game, whatever it is that you're doing. It's way more fun and way more exciting when it's close. And even more fun when you're both trying really hard and it's close. When I did my black belt test and I had to spar with the instructor and he just basically wiped the floor with me, basically pounded me into the mat like over and over and over again. He actually kicked me in the face and my helmet turned sideways. So I was looking out the ear hole of my helmet. That was fun. But yeah, that might not have been as much fun as if it would have been a closer match. But anyway, Saule, thank you so much for the topic, and hopefully some of that made sense to you. Hopefully you'll be able to gain something. But yeah, you're awesome.